Now page 49. Surrey is a disciple of Wyatt rather than an independent poetical force. He modified the sonnet form and made it typically English. The Petrarchan form is more impressive, the modified English form the more expressive. I'm repeating, the Petrarchan form is more impressive, the modified English form the more expressive. Shakespeare followed the English form of sonnet introduced by Surrey. He was the first in his translation of the second and fourth books of Virgil's Aeneid to use the 10-syllabled unrhymed verse, which is now known as the blank verse. Sir Philip Sidney, 1554 to 1586. Sidney, the most celebrated literary figure before Spenser and Shakespeare, is remembered for Arcadia 1590, a prose romance, Apology for Poetry 1580, and Astrophel and Stella 1593, a collection of sonnets. The sonnets, numbering about 108, are the first poetic expression of personal feelings and experiences in English. His sonnets owe much to Petrarch and Ronsard in time and style. Sidney has produced a body of poetry which, for its versatile excellence, places him in the foremost rank of his time. Edmund Spenser, Spenser, 1552 to 1599. Edmund Spenser, a typical representative of his age, has been hailed by Charles Lamb as the poet of poets, or the poet's poet, because all great poets of England have been indebted to him. Spenser, Rickett remarks, is at once the child of Renaissance and Reformation. On one side, we may regard him with Milton as the sage and serious Spenser. On the other, he is the humanist, alive to the fingertips with the sensuous beauty of Southern romance. Spenser's main works are The Shepherd Calendar, 1579, a pastoral romance, Amoretti, a collection of 88 Petrarch sonnets, Epithalamion, 1595, a magnificent ode commemorating his marriage with Elizabeth Boyle, Astrophel, 1596, an elegy on the death of Philip Sidney, 4 hymns, 1576, glorifying love and honor, and his magnum opus, Fairy Queen, 1589 to 1609. Spenser's poetry is characterized by sensuousness and picturesqueness. He is a matchless painter in words. His contribution to poetic style, diction, and versification is memorable. He evolved a poetic style which the succeeding generations of English poets used. The introduction of Spenserian stanza, which had been adroitly used by almost all poets, is his most remarkable contribution to poetry. He is great because of the extraordinary smoothness and melody of his verse, the richness of his language, a golden diction which he drew from every source, new words, old words, and obsolete words. Spenser is the poet's poet in the real sense. All great poets have been influenced by him. Renwick says Shakespeare himself might not have achieved so much if Spenser had not lived and laboured. Dryden acknowledges that Spenser had been his master in English. Thomson referred to him as my master Spenser. Wordsworth praises him as the embodiment of nobility, purity, and sweetness. Byron, Shelley, and Keats are his worthy followers. The pre-Raphaelites were inspired by his word painting and picturesque descriptions. Spenser's Fairy Queen, Faerie, Fairy Queen, as an epic. Spenser's magnum opus, The Fairy Queen, is a romantic epic which combines the features of both a romance and an epic. It has something of Homer's simplicity, though not his poignancy. It is not an epic in the classical style like those of Homer and Virgil. Its hero, Prince Arthur, was a celebrated figure in folklore and legend and has a semblance of reality for the 16th century England. His adventures. Spenser is the poet's poet in the real sense. All great poets have been influenced by him. Renwick says Spenser himself might not have achieved so much if Spenser had not lived. Shakespeare himself might not have achieved so much if Spenser had not lived and laboured. Dryden acknowledges that Spenser had been his master in English. Thomson referred to him as my master Spenser. Wordsworth praises him as the embodiment of nobility, purity, and sweetness. Byron, Shelley, and Keats are his worthy followers. The pre-Raphaelites were inspired by his word painting and picturesque descriptions. Spenser's Fairy Queen, Fairy, Faerie, Fairy Queen as an epic. Spenser's magnum opus, The Fairy Queen, is a romantic epic which combines the features of both a romance and an epic. It has something of Homer's simplicity, though not his poignancy. It is not an epic in the classical style like those of Homer and Virgil. Its hero, Prince Arthur, was a celebrated figure in folklore and legend and has a semblance of reality for 16th century England. His adventures and exploits are heroic. He is an ideal person who always appears to rescue the oppressed. Although Prince Arthur casually appears in each book, he fails to provide the unity of action essential for an epic. Each of the books has its own hero and deals with his individual exploits and adventure. It lacks in unity of action worth of an epic. Spenser's imagination in Fairy Queen is expansive, and he filled up the measure of his narrative with everything that caught his fancy: historical events and personages under allegorical masks, beautiful ladies, chivalrous knights, giants, monsters, dragons, sirens, enchanters, and countless adventures. The scene is laid in a romantic fairyland. Rickett remarks, sensitive to every phase of imagination and beauty, there is always a dreamy almosters over his verse. The treatment of the subject is in grand style, suitable for an epic. The language is delightful, dignified. The similes are primal and diverse. A wounded hero falls, quote, and as an aged tree, high growing on the top of a rocky cliff. Songs and lyrics of Shakespeare's age. The age of Shakespeare was the golden age of songs and lyrics. End of page 49, now page 50. Various factors contributed to the unique development of lyric poetry during this period. The feeling of stability, peace, and contentment enabled poets to compose songs and lyrics full of buoyancy and zest for life. The Elizabethans loved music, which is closely related with lyric. The Elizabethan lyrical impulse seeks expression in a great variety of political forms. The lyric proper appears now under the pastoral conventions, now as a sonnet and sonnet sequences, now in various composite literary forms such as formal ode and epithalamium, and again as pure song lyric of the Elizabethan song books in madrigal, ode and catch, that altogether delightful and exquisite outbursts of bird-like music, exotic and Italianate, and yet to modern ears at the same time so freshly English and native. The Elizabethan songs and lyrics were on a variety of themes. There were love songs, religious songs, patriotic songs, war songs, fantastic songs and philosophical songs. They were composed in every mood, grave, romantic, fantastic, sentimental, meditative, mocking, and cynical. Merry England was a nest of singing birds. Plays and prose romances were full of songs and lyrics. Love is the main theme of Elizabethan lyrical poetry. It is a fanciful love that laughs and entreats and sighs. Pastoral element, many time rapture, joys of countryside, shepherds' feasts and shepherds' love characterize most of the songs and the lyrics of this period. Sir Philip Sidney, who wrote many beautiful songs, contributed the qualities of loftiness, sensuousness, picturesqueness and superb musicality to lyrical poetry. Some of his finest songs, to you, all songs of praise are due, only joy, now here you are, and ring out your bell, and many others are characterized by depth of passion, beauty, romance, and fancifulness. He inserted songs in the Shepherd's Calendar. Marlowe's genius was lyrical. His famous song, Come Live With Me and Be My Love, is one of the finest songs in English lyrical poetry of the 16th century. Shakespeare's plays, especially comedies and romances, are littered with songs. His songs are characterized by originality, spontaneity, depth and intensity of feelings, freshness, vigor and youthfulness, flight of an imagination wedded to realism, as in Amien's song Under the Greenwood, As You Like It, and Autochilus' song in The Winter's Tale. Some of his songs express the poignant feelings of love, as Tell Me Where Is Fancy Bred, sung by Bassanio in The Merchant of Venice, Sigh No More Ladies in Much Ado About Nothing, and Take These Lips Away in Measure for Measure. These are interesting songs of passion. Commenting on Shakespeare's songs, S.A. Brooke writes, Shakespeare's songs excel the others in their gay rejoicing, their firm reality, their exquisite ease, and when in the place gain a new beauty from their fitness to their dramatic place. The plays of Shakespeare's contemporary dramatists are also decorated with songs. Thomas Dekker, Beaumont and Fletcher, and Ben Jonson included many lovely songs and their plays. Lilly's songs, Lilly's songs are remembered for their delicate melody, flawless diction, and light and refined note. Green's songs are full of national feelings, pastoral and Renaissance fancies. Peale's lyrics survive for their melody and cadence. Nash's songs are now rollicking and open and often and again musically melancholy. Lodge's songs are more varied and more inclined to pastoralism. Britten's songs are fresh, copious, and are imbued with a fine artistic feeling. Thomas Champion, 1567 to 1620, deserves praise for his attractive lyrics and songs. He was stirred to rapture by sacred and profane love alike. His well-known collections of songs are a book Ayres 1601, Song of Mourning 1613, and the two books of Ayres 1612. His songs and lyrics are characterized by the deft use of sweet and apt phrases, musical quality of a high order, and a mastery of complicated meters. He could press fantastic ideas with great ease, spontaneity, and felicity. For example, there is a garden in her face whose roses white and yellow, roses and white lilies blow. The heavenly paradise is that place wherein all pleasant fruits do grow. Samuel Daniel, 1562 to 1619, had to his credit a sonnet series called Delia in 1592, Arrogance, and a romance entitled The Complaint of Rosamond, 1592, a long historical poem, The Civil War, by 1595, and a large number of masques. Drayton wrote many lyrics, verses, and pastorals such as The Man in the Moon and Nymphidia. He simplified English language by removing eccentricities and arbitrary inventions. Purity of his poetic style is admirable. A number of poetic miscellanies consisting of short lyrics and songs by various poets appeared. End of page 50, now page 51. Some famous anthologies are Totel's Miscellany, 1537, The Paradise of Dainty Devices, 1576, The Passionate Pilgrim, 1599, and England's Helicon, 1600. These collections contain countless songs and lyrics composed by poets whose names now awaken no response. The Elizabethan lyric is light and airy. It is an expression of the holiday mood of its author. It expresses a fine blending of the genius of the people and the artistic sense awakened by humanism. Some of the finest lyrics of this period are distinguished by graceful refinements of vocabulary and pliability of versification previously unknown to her. They are conspicuous of their musical quality, the flight of fancy, and the note of gay and joyous abandonment. Sonnets and Sonneteers. The sonnet originated in the 14th century in Italy. It is associated with the name of Petrarch, who addressed his sonnets to his beloved Laura. Dante's sonnets are addressed to his beautiful beloved Beatrice. It is originally a short poem recited to the accompaniment of music. It is derived from the Italian word sonetto, meaning a little sound or strain. In course of time, it became a short poem of 14 lines with a set rhyme scheme. In England, Wyatt and Surrey began sonnet writing in imitation of the Italian sonnet. Wyatt introduced the Petrarchan model and left 31 sonnets on the theme of love of rare excellence and beauty. Surrey gave a new turn to sonnet writing by introducing a new pattern, which in course of time became popular as English or Shakespearean sonnet, because Shakespeare used it with rare poetic grace and excellence. Surrey's sonnets are addressed to Lady Geraldine and are marked by a note of melancholy and sadness. Wyatt and Surrey also introduced the personal or autobiographical note in sonnets. In 1582, Thomas Watson published 100 passions or poems of love, through which, though in 18 lines were described as sonnets. Watson's second volume, entitled The Tears of Fancy or Love Disdained, contained poems in 14 lines and hence are sonnets in the real sense. The sonnets are initiative and the sonnets are imitative and lack in personal touch and authenticity of feeling. The publication of Sir Philip Sidney's Astrophel and Stella, 1591, marked the real and glorious beginning of sonnet writing. Influenced by Petrarch, Ronsard, and Watson, Sidney addressed his sonnets, which are effusions of personal passion, to his beloved Penelope, the Stella of his sonnets. Mayer writes, they are the first direct expression in English literature of an intimate personal experience struck off in white heat of passion. Lamb detected in Sidney's glorious vanities and graceful hyperboles signs of love in its very heyday, a transcendent passion pervading and illuminating his life and conduct. Ruskin wrote about Sidney's sonnets, "If you do not like those love songs, you either have never been in love or you don't know good writing from bad." He followed the Petrarchan scheme of sonnet. His example was followed by Daniel in Delia, Constable in Diana, and Spenser in Amoretti. Spenser's Amoretti is a collection of 88 sonnets, is a memorable contribution to the art of sonnet writing, addressed to Elizabeth Boyle, whom she was married. These sonnets are passionate recordation of the a recordation of the poet's personal and intimate feelings. Ligjua this thing remarks in the first rank of the works of English Renaissance, Spenser's sonnets come between those of Sidney and Shakespeare, from which they are different in form and sentiment. Spenser's sonnets evince the influence of Platonic idea of love and beauty. His sonnets acquitted the Elizabethan reader to the classical conceit, and poets not only achieved immortality through their verse, but they also had the power of conferring immortality on those to whom their poetry was addressed. Spenser tells his beloved, "My verse your virtue rare shall eternize, and in the heavens write your glorious name."